The morning sky over the besieged fortress darkened not from clouds but from smoke and dust as Ottoman artillery opened one of the most relentless bombardments of the campaign. For 6 continuous hours, cannons roared without pause, shaking the ground and burying the fortress walls beneath waves of rebel. It was a calculated effort to break the defenders' strength before the next assault. At the first thunder of guns, the air filled with a shriek of incoming projectiles. Massive cannonballs slammed into stone walls that had already endured weeks of punishment. Each impact sent fragments flying, creating deadly showers of debris inside the fortress. Towers trembled, and defensive positions disappeared behind thick clouds of dust. Ottoman artillery crews operated with disciplined precision. Teams rotated rapidly, reloading and firing in a steady rhythm designed to maintain constant pressure. Commanders adjusted the angle and focus of fire, concentrating on previously damaged sections of the wall. Their objective was clear: widen existing breaches and create new ones large enough for an assault force to exploit. Inside the fortress, the defenders were thrust into a desperate struggle for survival. The bombardment made organized movement nearly impossible. Soldiers hugged the inner walls, shielding themselves from falling stone while awaiting orders. Communication was reduced to shouted commands barely audible over the deafening explosions. Engineers and repair crews attempted to respond even as the bombardment continued. Whenever the firing briefly shifted to another section, teams rushed forward to reinforce weakened areas with timber, earth, and salvaged stone. These emergency repairs were often destroyed moments later by renewed cannon fire. The psychological toll of the bombardment was immense. Hours of uninterrupted explosions created a sense of endless chaos. Dust choked the air, stinging eyes and lungs. Many defenders struggled to maintain focus amid the constant shockwaves, yet officers moved tirelessly among the ranks, urging their men to hold firm. Medical stations quickly filled with casualties. Some soldiers were struck by debris, others thrown to the ground by the force of nearby impacts. Healers worked under extreme conditions, treating wounds while the fortress shook around them. Stretchers moved through narrow passages as carefully as possible, navigating a landscape transformed by destruction. From their positions beyond the walls, Ottoman observers monitored the effects of the bombardment. Signals were sent to artillery units to intensify fire on targets showing visible collapse. Smoke rose in thick columns as parts of the fortress exterior crumbled under sustained impact. The defenders responded with limited counterfire, conserving ammunition for the expected assault. Archers and gunners remained on standby, protected as best as possible from the storm of artillery. Their restraint reflected a strategic decision. Survival during the bombardment was essential to resisting what would follow. As the hours passed, fatigue spread through the garrison. The relentless noise and vibration drained physical and mental energy. Some soldiers described the experience as standing inside a continuous thunderstorm of iron and stone. Still, the chain of command held. Religious figures moved through sheltered areas, offering brief prayers and encouragement. These moments of calm provided a fragile anchor amid the chaos. Many defenders drew strength from shared rituals, reinforcing their determination to endure. The fortress itself saw the visible scars of the bombardment. Entire sections of wall were reduced to jagged ruins. Defensive towers leaned precariously, and barricades were splintered. Fires sparked by exploding munitions were quickly extinguished to prevent further damage. Ottoman commanders recognized that the bombardment was achieving its purpose. Reports indicated significant structural weakening and mounting exhaustion among the defenders. Preparations for the follow-up assault accelerated. Infantry units assembled in staging areas, awaiting the signal to advance. Inside the fortress, officers conducted rapid assessments of the damage. Reserve troops were repositioned to guard newly formed breaches. Makeshift barriers were constructed from wreckage, creating improvised lines of defense. Every available fighter was assigned a role in the coming battle. The final hour of bombardment was among the most intense. Cannons fired in rapid succession, targeting the largest breaches to ensure they remained open. The ground trembled continuously, and visibility dropped to near zero in some areas as dust filled the air. When the artillery finally fell silent, an eerie stillness settled over the battlefield. For the defenders, the sudden absence of noise was almost as shocking as the bombardment itself. Through the lingering haze, the extent of the destruction became clear. The walls
that had once stood solid were now fractured and scarred. Rubble covered defensive walkways, and the air carried the acrid scent of smoke and shattered stone. Exhausted soldiers emerged from shelter, taking their positions along the damaged ramparts. There was little time to recover. Scouts reported movement within the Ottoman lines, signaling that the long-anticipated assault was imminent. Officers rallied their troops, emphasizing that survival through the bombardment had already demonstrated their resilience. Despite their exhaustion, the defenders prepared to meet the next wave. Weapons were checked, and final instructions were delivered. The shared ordeal of the 6-hour barrage had forged a grim unity within the fortress. Beyond the walls, Ottoman forces stood ready to capitalize on the devastation their artillery had inflicted. The bombardment had transformed the battlefield, setting the stage for a decisive confrontation. As both sides braced for the clash to come, the memory of those 6 relentless hours hung heavily in the air. air. The fortress had been battered, but not erased. Its defenders, though weary, remained determined to resist. The silence that followed the bombardment was only temporary. It marked the end of one brutal phase and the beginning of another. In the balance lay the fate of the fortress and the outcome of a siege that had already pushed both armies to their limits.